Martin Scorsese says that Marvel movies are not cinema. That is the headline on today's MBE Heroes.
Of course, that is the headline, John, on this week's MBE Heroes. Martin Scorsese says Marvel movies are not cinema. What do you make of this? Because reading this article, I actually kind of agree with him to a point. I'm not saying they're not cinema. What I am saying is he's from a very old school way of filmmaking.
Yeah.
His style of film as well is very character driven.
Yes.
And Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, etc. They are all based on the investing in the characters in the film, John. I'm not saying to an extent the likes of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Tony Stark isn't to a degree like that, or Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, but he likes to go deep with his characters and what brings them to be what they are, what we see on the screen, John. So I think the actual headline itself is a bit unfair on Martin Scorsese, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think he actually does kind of say that to an extent. He does say it's not cinema. It's his opinion, to be honest with you, but it has ruffled a few feathers in the past. Obviously, Jodie Foster being one, sharing similar sentiments. I know why you're laughing, John, because we did have a little conversation off camera about this, and I did chin you for that. But
I'll see what I said.
Yes, I hope you do. But what's your thoughts on this anyway, John? It's coming at a time, I think, obviously with The Irishman coming out, Scorsese's sort of connections to the Todd Phillips Joker film, which is comic book based, and obviously just with the wrap up of the last phase as well from Marvel, that's coming at a time, it's a strange time to be releasing news like this. He's been asked a question and he's gave an honest answer. Is it the right answer though?
Well, that's very nuanced, Stephen. That depends on which side of the fence you are when it comes to comic book movies. If you're Jodie Foster, then he's absolutely correct. If you're me, then it's a little bit more nuanced. I don't agree with Jodie Foster when she says it, because to be quite frank with Stephen, I find her to be a condescending little twerp of a git of a woman. So I'm not keen on her opinion. I feel that she's condescending in her approach, and she's not been that great of a figure. She's not this towering figure in the world of cinema like a Scorsese. But just cutting to the absolute crap, I like Martin Scorsese, plain and simple, and I don't like Jodie Foster. So when Martin Scorsese says it, I take note, and I kind of agree in certain levels, because I can read between the lines.
I think his choice of words, John, in saying it's not cinema is probably not the right thing to say.
Yeah, it's not cinema, but I can understand what he's saying. It's more airy, superficial in the way that it approaches character development. And what I will get into in a minute, Stephen, is perhaps another thing that he's maybe not looked at. He's maybe negated or failed to see that it's a process that takes place over many, many movies, many, many years. The character development we'd probably see in a 2-3 hour film from him usually takes place over multiple movies in an MCU setup. So he's not being completely fair on the Marvel movies. But I don't expect a guy of Scorsese's background, of his generation, to come in and say, my God, I absolutely love Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, I love comic book movies, they blow me away. The guy's old school. He's from a different time. He's one of the all-time great directors, producers, writers, you name it. And he's got his own unique way of telling stories on the screen, as you did say, Stephen. More character-driven, nuanced, dark examinations of the human soul and depravity and whatnot. He's seen it in Raging Bull, he's seen it in Taxi Driver.
But that mentality, John, has probably made the genre suffer come Academy Award time, do you not think? Yeah,
but Stephen, well, I'll get into that as well. I think comic book movies are starting to develop and become more adventurous in the way they approach the filmmaking technique, the way they're approaching genres, are jumping across. It's not just an out-and-out action movie now. They've genre define. They're blurring the lines between genres essentially. Without getting caught in a never-ending tongue twisting session there.
Into a Spider-Verse.
Into a Spider-Verse. Yes, and I'll not come back. But yeah, Stephen, I digress. It's like you've seen it with Joker and you've seen it with Logan. They're blurring the lines between genres. Logan was like a western. Joker's this very drama-driven movie. Much like Wolf, Scorsese was involved. He produced it. Don't know if he wrote it, but certainly he was involved. And that is a completely different type of comic book movie. Also, it doesn't have any out-and-out ties to the comic book material, apart from one thing which we'll get into later on in the show.
Yeah.
So you can understand why he's maybe not contradicting himself there. Some people would say, well, you've just been involved in a comic book movie, you're slagging comic book movies, but it's different. It's not like your traditional comic book movie. It's again like, it's blatantly ripped off the king of comedy and the Taxi Driver and whatnot, with some of the themes it explores. You can almost lift it straight from those movies. Dark retelling or telling of this classic supervillain and how life's batting them down and whatnot. So I can understand why he doesn't like it, essentially, Stephen, without gibbering off nonsensically for about 20 minutes. He's from a different time, he's from a different era, and I wouldn't expect him to enjoy it. But I do feel that this is just the sort of a recurring theme you see from people of that generation, from people involved in the Academy who are obviously tasked with voting on the movies coming up to the Oscar period. They just don't give comic book movies a chance because they see them as this sort of a stereotypical action-heavy movie, and they don't really take the time to go through the wider stories and see how all overacts comes together.
I think the period that we're in just now as well is it's obviously this is the height of the genre as well, which has never been there before. So you take the old filmmakers and directors. Steven Spielberg's, I think he's involved in some form of comic book.
Yeah, it's a World War II fighter pilot thing.
Again, it's different. Again, it's, as you said, it's very much more in the vein of the likes of Logan or the Joker. They're taking genres and blending them.
Yeah, he's slanting it to a World War II movie.
Exactly, and that's from that generation of filmmakers. I get why Spielberg would be doing that. I think he wants to remain in not so much his comfort zone, but what he knows, and he knows World War II more than most filmmakers. So that kind of cross-genre works for that filmmaker. Scorsese, on the other hand, John, is one of the best in the business for what he does. And I talked about this, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but those films I mentioned from Scorsese earlier, not one of them are the same, although they all come under the same sort of gritty sort of backdrop. Whether it be, a character, investing in the character and getting to understand what makes them tick. It goes really deep with these characters as well. I'm pretty sure we're going to get the same in The Irishman, although that is based on a book. I think we're going to get to understand these characters and their motives. On the other hand, you don't really have time to do that in one film, as you said, John, in the comic book genre. When you have to do that kind of thing, it is spread over so many films.
It has to maintain such a quick pace to keep the audience invested in it. It's a completely different demographic you're trying to target, Stephen.
Exactly, that's it.
Comic book movies have to be in your face, up, and just maintain that pace and that sort of a tone, that same tone all the way through. We've seen it with the MCU. They've almost created their own tone, if you like, this light, airy comedy.
To be fair to Kevin Feige and the team, at Marvel, they try to stay true as much as they can to the original source as well, because they know that they've got so many people to please. You've got your comic book, the original comic book geeks out there who know every window in those comic books, how they're played out, these characters, what they've said, what they've done, and they want to see that on the big screen at some point. But then again, you've got the new generation coming in that's probably not invested as much in the comic books, who want to see all-out action. So it's a very fine balance you've got to work with as well. Whereas Scorsese, when he's working with, apart from The Irishman, as I said, John, I think his films are mostly original stories anyway, and he can work with what is in his head. He's not got to please anyone. He's not got to write a story for a certain sect of fans. Scorsese writes and directs films that he wants to make,
but has films straight from his heart, Stephen, and his mind. You're absolutely right. It's completely different demographic, Stephen. The ones that follow Scorsese, they're more film enthusiasts. They'll go just for the love of the filmmaking and the artistry that he displays, and the way he, as you did say, splay out a character's faults and whatnot and show you the growth, and you invest right into the story. That's different to the type of people who perhaps will go and watch a more airy, light popcorn flick experience in a comic book movie. In the main, I'm not trying to shoehorn them, I'm doing it as well, shoehorning comic book movies, because they have started to change, Stephen. We've got to see more nuanced villains, more nuanced and advanced storytelling techniques and different genres and whatnot.
But they're not stray away too far, John. For every Joker film we're going to get a Suicide Squad, or as you said, Captain Marvel film. So it's just finding that balance.
Final thing I'll say, Stephen, you did mention about different people liking different things, and Samuel L. Jackson has actually commented on it. I'll briefly touch upon what he says. Well, he was pretty polite.
A few NFs in there.
Oh, he was surprisingly polite, Stephen. He says that's like saying Bugs Bunny ain't funny. Films are films. Everybody doesn't like his stuff. Right? Essentially saying that there's a lot of Italian Americans who are put out by him continually making films that perhaps shine a negative light on that part of the society. And he's basically saying that it's not going to stop nobody from making movies. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone likes something different, and that's what makes the world go round. You know what I mean?
But I do disagree with him. Bugs Bunny was never funny.
Yeah, he wasn't funny. You're absolutely right. But Stephen, we're going to move on.
We will, John.
We've done it to the day.
Yes, the next article coming in from Cinema Blend says Robert Pattinson was shocked he got cast as Batman, obviously / Bruce Wayne. And the quote is, "It's kind of insane. I was so far away from ever thinking it was a realistic prospect. I literally do not understand how I've got it at all." Confident words there from the actor, John, taking on this role, which has been much heavily debated since the departure of Ben Affleck as the Caped Crusader. What's your thoughts on this, John? Because it's, I don't know if it's maybe a segment of something he said, because it's very negative.
Yeah, Stephen, you've got to admire his modesty in a way. He's quite a modest chap. Yeah. Obviously, his feet's firmly on the ground. He doesn't think he's a Billy Big Balls, as we'd say over here. That's Billy Big Balls probably everywhere else. Essentially, he doesn't think he's the bee's knees. He's very much a modest chap, and he's just very happy and excited by the prospect of getting the chance to portray Bruce Wayne, aka the Caped Crusader, as you did say. So yeah, in some part I'm quite impressed by his modesty, in other parts I'm quite concerned that they perceive the lack of confidence. Surely isn't an unconfident chap. You see the different roles he's going for now. He's starting alongside William Dafoe in The Lighthouse. He's doing different things. He's shaking up his career, his ability, and to perhaps do different roles and see if he can become a chameleon of sorts like a Dafoe. So he's not obviously going to be renowned for his role in the Twilight Saga, which I've never seen, incidentally. I did see it
maybe
before.
Maybe had an effect on him, John.
Possibly.
You know that, or you know, he's taken to heart some of the things that have been said on social media for his appointment. I'm not sure, but I think he's quite a. From what I gather, he's a very grounded person anyway. You know, he doesn't get carried away with these things, and I think that says it in that quote. He's not, not a big head. I don't know if actors are told who they might be up against when they're obviously getting put forward, but I doubt that would have much effect on it anyway.
Well, apparently it was Nicholas Hoult.
Again, I think probably he's probably level as in my eyes anyway, John, in his calibre of acting with Robert Pattinson. When it was announced both of them were up for the role, I'll be honest, I wasn't really minded who it was going to be out of those two. I was actually quite happy. Yeah. We had some names going about maybe about a year ago that obviously didn't make the final list, but when those two names were named and we talked about it on a podcast, I wasn't too perturbed. I would have been quite happy with Nicholas Hoult as well. Yeah,
Stephen, they're both coming from similar sort of backgrounds. Yeah. They've been involved in franchise films. Also, Hoult's been involved in X-Men and whatnot. But they've also done different drama-driven movies. We've seen Hoult in the likes of Tolkien recently. Yeah. He started off in a great little movie about a boy. Yeah. So they've done different things. They're starting to perhaps splay out their acting abilities. That's my new word of the week, incidentally, splay, clearly. They're trying to do different roles though, and I think both would have been very good in the role of Batman. But look, it wasn't to be for Nicholas Hoult, it is to be for Robert Pattinson, and I just cannot wait to see what the guy brings to this movie, Stephen, because as I do rightly say here, as I says as well, he is trying his best to distance himself from the Twilight crap. Yeah. I'm going to call it crap, I've never seen it. That's me being presumptuous. I'm being all Scorsese like in my condemnation
it's not cinema.
Of a franchise. It's not cinema. That's nonsense. Yeah. And now he's getting into a role which is cinema. Batman for me. Scorsese would disagree probably, although maybe not, because it's darker than the storytelling DC usually.
Yeah.
It's into the dark recesses of him. You talk about dark recesses within a man's psyche. Bruce Wayne, very complicated chap, living a double life.
Yeah.
He's got issues, much like the Joker, his supervillain, altered whatever the hell counterpart. But yeah, I digress. I'm going off on a tangent. I'm really excited to see what Robert Pattinson brings. I digress.
Yes.
And it's nice to see some modesty within a relative A-list actor in today's society, because they're very full of themselves usually. And look, I think he's quietly confident. I don't think he's... I mean, I was jesting previously when I said that perhaps he's shown a lack of confidence. I doubt it. And you can see that with the humility and the level-headedness, Stephen, that he's taken to the controversy and also the criticism that's been coming his way from those little bitches who are never happy with any casting ever. It doesn't matter who they'd cast, they'd find fault in it. And we've seen that time and time again in different movies. Obviously, Heath Ledger was the most famous one. I can understand why people were hating on that, though.
Michael Keaton as well, no?
Michael Keaton as well, yeah, because he was too small. And he was, but he done well.
I thought he was a good Bruce Wayne, yeah.
He was a good Bruce Wayne. But yeah, Stephen, look, it is what it is. I'm excited to see. It's nice to see some modesty, as I did say, and I've not got much more to add on that note, so I shall move swiftly on, unless you've got anything to add.
Listen, the proof will be in the pudding when the film's released, John. We'll see how he performs. I have got no doubt that the man will knock it out of the park, but we'll move on to our final article, John. It's Joker's version of Thomas Wayne. That's Bruce Wayne's daddy, is true to Batman comics. Actor Brett Cullen is going to be playing a surprisingly sleazier version of Thomas Wayne in the Joker film, John. It's obviously just been released over here in the UK just at the end of last week. But what's your take on this? Because the article does make a good an argument in regards to the perception of the character through various films, that it's always it's perfectly described here as a filtered version of the character, because we only get to understand the character and know the character through Bruce Wayne, who's his son, and obviously Alfred as well, the butler. So they are going to see him in a different light, but certainly Todd Phillips is taking this to another level or another angle.
Yes, indeed, Stephen. He's taking it to an angle which is viewed from the perspective of the supervillain that is the Joker. This guy's coming from a totally different way of thinking. He's in a really dark place, and there's a connection between the two characters which obviously causes him to think the way he does, and then that's obviously then transcended onto the audience who are watching it. Yeah. But you're right about the variations we've seen of the character before. He's been this more heroic, goody two-shoes, light figure, and that's because he is being viewed through the spectrum of an Alfred Pennyworth or a Bruce Wayne, and they have both lost this towering figure who was a part of their lives, who they loved tremendously. And then that's obviously, when you're seeing it from their version of reality, then it's changing the perspective on the character, essentially. But is he surprisingly sleazy? I mean, I don't know, because I actually haven't seen the movie yet, Stephen, so I don't know if he is sleazy or not. But it was very interesting to see that they're perhaps changing things up for the Waynes in this movie, seeing it from a different perspective, as I did say, without repeating myself ad nauseum. And it's just, again, it's just the concept. This is what it allows you to do when you do movies like this, Stephen. When you do supervillain movies, origin stories for guys like this, you don't know what is reality and what is not reality, because he's obviously clinically insane, this guy, or he's got chemical imbalances at some point. So is he just making things up and
that crossed my mind, John,
essentially creating a reality that doesn't exist? You're seeing it from his warped perspective. Or is this true? Has he got grounds to be angered by the Thomas Wayne character? I don't know, because I'll only wait until I see it.
Well, exactly, John, but I think that came into my head as well, that this might be the perception that Arthur Fleck likes or wants us to believe, but we'll wait till we see it, John. But
I mean, I've read down the article, Stephen, and it's hinting that he may have grounds to believe that Thomas Wayne, spoiler alert, could be his father. Yeah, that would definitely skew your opinion of Thomas Wayne. If you are Arthur Fleck, you're disenfranchised, down in the dirt with your ailing mother, basically kicked to the ground literally time and time again by society, and you see this big successful tycoon, businessman, multi-millionaire if not billionaire, and he's could be your father.
Yeah, I bet. So imagine
and you're left in the dirt.
The Step Brothers, it's a bit warped, isn't it?
That's an interesting one, because you imagine that spin-off, Stephen, Step Brothers, but instead of John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, we have Robert Pattinson and Joaquin Phoenix.
This reeks a Gold member to me, John, with Austin Powers and Dr. Evil were actually half brothers. I hope they don't go down that way.
No,
if they're going down that way, they might as well just make it Step Brothers 2 with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Well, they do. Again, they go on further, Stephen, to say that he apparently aggressively covered up an affair, or is presumed to have aggressively covered up an affair. So again, that shows you why, with this movie being framed through the perspective and the view of the Joker character, Arthur Fleck, what you're seeing as the audience watching this is firmly through him. Now, from the reviews I've heard, apparently Joaquin Phoenix is firmly front and centre. He's not many scenes, if any, he's not a part of. So everything you see is through his vision of the world, this disenfranchised, alienated vision where he just hates everything. He's getting he says at one point in the trailer, all I have is negative thoughts. So when you're armed with this information about this big successful businessman, as I did say, then it's no wonder.
It's always good though, John, that I think because of the period it's set in as well, it gives the filmmaker a chance and the story a chance to be able to look into Thomas Wayne's life at this point, because we've only ever come into that point where they leave the opera and he's gunned down, him and Martha. So it's good to see, and obviously, like the headline says, they are reverting back to comic book stories and this perception of them.
You actually get a great...
It's a fantastic visual, isn't it?
Graphic.
And I think as well, it will be interesting to see where they go with the character as well. Obviously, we're talking about this film because we've not seen it. Most people, if they're going to tune into this film, have probably already seen the film, so they'll probably think, guys, you're havering. But I think it's an interesting angle to come from, I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, Steve, the final thing I'll add, again, just touching back on what I say, is looking at the actual comic graphic, it essentially is sharing the moment with another female. It's also not Arthur Wayne. Bruce Wayne's hanging over, he's looking a little worse for wear, perhaps being sick or something like that, or maybe he's just preoccupied with something else. And again, it's just tying in beautifully from Todd Phillips and obviously Scorsese, perhaps overseeing it as an executive producer, to this concept of him being just another sleazy, power-hungry businessman who's been framed through this perspective of his young child who lost him when he was very, very young, and he's got kind of a tarted up vision of him, quite a goody two-shoes spec vision, and this is the reality. We're seeing the actual reality. But although perhaps with the little caveat of it being framed through a deeply unhappy and mentally disturbed guy's perspective. So all in all, I cannot wait to see the movie. I've not seen it yet. I will see it. I hope I'm right and that it is being framed through this deeply mentalist sort of a perspective, and it's not true, he's not that sleazy. But then again, I don't really care because I'm not Bruce Wayne. I've got no role to play in this. I have no stakes in this game. And that's going to round the show up, Stephen, on that note, because I am havering away, as we like to say in Scotland. What did you guys make of the topics we spoke about today? What the hell do you make of the Martin Scorsese furore? Do you agree with him? Are comic book movies simply not cinema? Or are they the greatest thing since sliced bread, another Scottish phrase? What do you make of Robert Pattinson's perceived modesty and his shock at being cast as Bruce Wayne? What the hell do you make of the concept of Thomas Wayne being a sleazy bitch? If you've seen the movie, is it true? Or is it nonsense? Like the video if you've enjoyed it, comment below as well if you feel empowered to do so. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Me and Stephen will be back tomorrow for another episode of MBE Movie News.